glasses, and I got shamed into putting my pajamas on, so this. You don't have to have notes out. This is supposed to be just like a fireside chat. So there's your fire. I just want to thank Sarah. I know we've done this a million times, but I just really, really want to thank her because, wow, right? Speakers that have been here, I mean, all of us just, the time that has been put in to prepare and to get ready for you. And I want you all to know that I personally, and I'm sure the other speakers as well, I have a prayer team of women literally all over the world praying for you right now. And they have been praying up to this point, and they're praying through the whole conference, and they're literally just calling out to the Holy One to open your hearts, to open your minds, to bring healing, to bring restoration. And so powerful. Some of the speakers that are here, I'm like, oh, I can't believe I get to share stages with. It's been amazing. The theme of this conference, I don't know, it seems strange, but it seems like the theme has come up as I'm thinking, I'm going to say exactly that same thing. I'm going to do, and that always happens, right? But I'm noticing that the theme that's happened throughout this weekend has been identity. And so tonight I want to talk to you about identity, and I didn't make PowerPoints. I mean, I do for my own notes, because I just want us to just talk about this. I just want us to sit in the fact that this is a topic that's kind of hard. And can I just be really honest with you for a minute? When I was preparing for this, I was struggling up until, 5 minutes ago. I was struggling because I keep saying, but God, I have nothing new to say to them about this. And the more that I would pray about it, I was like, but God, the bottom line is if they really, really knew who you were, then they would really, really, really know who they are. And it said, we have the Bible, we have it all cover to cover. It tells you exactly who you are, but we don't believe it. Because if we did, we would all look different in here. We would not be struggling with the things we struggle with. And so that was what I wrestled with for the last 6 months. Is I don't have anything. What could I say other than just going up to each one of you and shaking you, going, no, really? Do you get it? This is who you are. So let's see how long I can sit each time. I've got nothing new, guys. It's all nothing's new.
That's why we do a cycle.
I'm wondering why, yes, exactly. I'm wondering why, Lord, and I'm having a hot flash again. Why don't we believe? Why don't we listen? And usually this is what I hear, and I got it again. He says, because they listen to the hiss. So you all know what that means? Because every single time, and I was joking with someone saying, oh my gosh, congratulations on your doctorate, and I know that was so much hard work, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, awkward, because it's so much easier to believe the bad things. It's so much easier to believe when my dad told me my whole life that I never finish anything. So in my mind, I'm a quitter. So I will say, well, it wasn't that hard. It comes easy to me. I just like school, so I'm just like that nerd person. And it was not that big a deal because I listened to that hiss. It's much easier for us to listen to the hiss. That hiss that tells you all the things you've heard Dr. Deb was talking about, the things that you're listening to, all the words that are going through your mind. And you're listening to the hiss instead of your Father, who's trying to love all over you and tell you who you are. The official definition, identity. It's the unique set of characteristics that can be used to identify a person as themselves and no one else. And my question as we start is I want to ask you, do you truly believe that you were fearfully and wonderfully made? Have you memorized that scripture since you were a little girl? And you can, of course, all finish it as I was saying it, but do you believe it? Do you know it in your knower, or is that just for that person sitting next to you? This year I've changed. I still am going through the tour cycle, but because we're teaching every Friday, however, taking the summer off, I've changed my reading this year. And I'm going through the entire Bible again because it's been a long time that I actually just went through from cover to cover. I get stuck in I'm in Torah constantly and I'm digging, and if that's all I have on the deserted island, I'm good. But this year I'm going through the word differently because I'm struggling believing who I am. And at 56 years old, I want to get this. But more importantly, I'm I'm struggling with knowing who he is. Because I can hear about him, but do I really know him? I feel him. I go through moments where I can just feel his anointing and I feel his presence, but do I know him? And so I've started going through the Word, and I'm using a really fun app and I love it. But I'm going through chapters of the Bible, and we're looking for, it's Charli Brown, and it's looking for the God shot. And I'm going through it, I'm just reading those scriptures saying, where are you in this, God? What is this telling me about who you are? Instead of about something new that I'm going to learn. I'm just tired of knowledge right now. That's a season I'm in. I'm tired of going into fellowships and congregations and we're learning more things and we're kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We're forgetting about Yeshua, Messiah. We're forgetting about the lover of our souls. And we're so focused on wanting to learn another thing. So is it okay tonight if we just sort of figure out who we are and who he is? It is super uncomfortable to look in the mirror. And I was going to get mirrors for everyone, but it wasn't in the budget. So just be honest. Not going to lie. Yeah, talk about ghetto. I just didn't, even dollar store, I was like, no, that's $200. No, it's not in the budget. But looking in the mirror and having you just look at yourself for a minute, how uncomfortable is that, right? I mean, we jump in the mirror and we're doing really quick, on your phones, yeah, no, you guys will be scared. You look in the mirror and you're putting your makeup on, you're doing your hair, and there's a mission, and so you're just getting through what you got to get done. But when you're looking in the mirror, just to stand there, and that's your challenge, you do have that as an assignment, you can do it when you go home, is just stand there and look at you. Stand there and look at yourself, telling yourself, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Your eyes might be a little wide set, but that's what he decided that was going to work for you. This eyebrow was a little funky, but you shouldn't have plucked them so much in the 90s. Or get past all that criticism, sit in it until you get past the criticism of yourself, and just start to love her. We were passing around our pictures because Dr. Devin was talking about your authentic self, and one of the things, I had a coach who had me put a picture of myself when I was like 4 or 5 years old, and Deb was talking about that. And so I had that picture, and so I was sharing the picture, and I would put it at my computer to remind myself of that authentic self. And it's myself with a little tambourine, and I had just kind of gotten this funk and going through divorce, just not in a good place, and I needed to see her again. I needed to dream like she used to dream. I needed to dance like she used to dance. When we look in the mirror, it's difficult to actually get in there and see what we see. A mirror reflects light, allowing you to see your own reflection. When you look into it, it shows you how you appear to others, helping you check your appearance, make adjustments as needed. A mirror shows us, though, what we look like, not who we are. And it doesn't show us who we are when no one's looking. I hear a lot of times, and tell me if you've heard this before, this is just who I am. I've had a couple people, and we're talking about changing, and they're like, I'm not changing, this is just who I am. I'm the type of person that just da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And then they have all the habits and all the systems that back up and support that. This is just who I am. Maybe you've taken on a label. This is my identity. When I say, who are you? I'm a mother. How many of you, when someone asks who they are, that's the first thing you'll tell? I'm a mom. How about, I'm a wife. We go through and we have these labels. I'm a mother, I'm a teacher, I'm a nurse, I'm a US citizen, I'm an influencer, I have tons of followers. I'm a doctor, Charli Brown, thank you. But each one of those titles holds an expectation. I remember for myself, just having the title of being a nurse, it was the first thing I would lead with. When someone would ask, oh, what do you do? Well, I'm a nurse. Because instantly I knew that you now are going to be completely at ease with me. I don't have to say one more thing. All I have to say is, you know everything you need to know. I'm a nurse. You trust me? You know if you start to have a heart attack, I can help. You know the important things. That's what we do. It's like we front with these things. Okay, but then when all of that changes, and now I'm not a wife, and now I'm not a nurse, or now I'm not a mother, the kids move away, the kids leave, maybe you retire. Or like for me, what happened is I got thyroid cancer. I used to travel all over the country, singing, I had recordings. It was just, I was like doing all the stuff. And I got thyroid cancer. They cut a laryngeal nerve. I had to learn how to talk again. I learned how to breathe. I told you guys, and the other thing, please don't come up to me with another asthma recipe. I don't have asthma. Please, I don't need another thing. It's biologic, it's frozen, it's cut, it's a nerve thing, okay? I get excited, I start going, and I won't die. That's all you need to know. I'll get back up if I stop breathing. But when that happened, all of a sudden I had an identity crisis. Because I would go to a conference like this and I'm not the person who could talk anymore. And if I'm not that person, who am I now? When your kids left the house, a lot of you went through that because they were so dependent on you and you had all these things to do and it was so much your identity, and then they leave the house and now who are you? Who needs you now? Well, then you just start controlling everybody else and downloading all their stuff, but really instead of sitting back and saying, well, who am I now? Because it's my understanding the minute that you define yourself by a label, I promise you he's gonna mess you up. It might be a divorce. All of a sudden you had this last name and now you don't. Everyone knew you as so-and-so's wife and now you're not. You don't get invited anymore because there's couples and now they don't invite you to things because you're now the widow. It's weird to go out with couples and how do you define yourself? Because you're not really like the singles, you're not out like going, you're not going out with all your friends. But you're also not invited with everybody else, because I remember back when I was going through this and I went through a divorce, everyone thought I was gonna take their husband or something. I'm like, really? Trust me, I don't want your man. I heard all about him, you told me. We'd be crazy. I mean, we are crazy, the stuff that we do. We are going through a renovation project right now. If any of you follow me on social media, every once in a while I'll do updates. And we have just torn this house up. The thing that was supposed to just be my floors and my walls when we moved in. And I walked in, I was like, oh, we just need floors and paint. That's all we need. And we had the guy come to give us the estimate on how much to do for painting, and he's like, $15,000. I'm like, what? So, what? I'm sorry, I think I just heard that wrong. And then I got another bid, and he was like, well, 10, but you provide the paint. And I'm like, wait, what? I'm in the wrong business. So if any of you guys want to start a painting company with me, apparently we could do some damage. I'm like, God, I could put a podcast in, and I'm just like, shh, I'd be done. This is good money. Well, what happened then is he was supposed to also paint cabinets, and then he goes over to my cabinet. I don't know why he thought this was okay, and scratched down it. He goes, yeah, these aren't even worth keeping. And I was like, well, now they're not. Now we hadn't moved in, we had just bought the house. This was in December. And so then I opened the door and it went and fell off. And I was like, well, I guess if we're gonna have to redo these cabinets, we might as well move them. So then it would be better if the kitchen was over on this side. You guys know what's happening next, don't you? But if we move them here, and then if we open this opening right here, we just need a little opening, we could arch it. That would even be beautiful. But you know what, if we put an island now here and then they back their chairs up, it's gonna kind of go in the living room, so we should probably move this wall in about 18 inches. And while we're moving this wall, let's take out this other weird wall. We don't even know why this is here, so let's close this off and do this. And by the way, why do we have this little bathroom next to the laundry room? You can't even, like your knees touch when you're trying, let's just get rid of that and make it a dog wash station, close it up and make it one big laundry room. And, okay. 6 months later, while I'm here, my floors are finally getting done. And my husband and I did the painting. So while we're here, that's what's happening. We have been living like we're camping for the last 6 months. And it's so fun on social media. All you see is how pretty it is from my deck, because it's gorgeous. I had to make spaces I could go retreat to. It'd be crazy in this house. And there were points inside this time in my house where there were, why I'm going somewhere with this. There were points when we had these 2x8s that were going across the open floor down into our crawl space, which you can stand in, and we were having to walk like this to get to the other side of the house to the bathroom and stuff. Yeah, that was happening. And when we would move a wall, guess what we would find? Mold. So now we're tearing that all out. Everything we did, we found another thing. And then we would open, you know, you're going through this. Valerie and her husband are both going through this with their properties. Up in the air conditioning units weren't connected. But you know what, from the outside, ooh, it looked good. The lawn was done, the front looks great, it's a pretty brick house with these, it looks also nice from the pretty red door with a nice little wreathy thing on the front. I have little, you know, things, I was gonna say cat o' nine tails. Willow things was on there. My outside, of course, all my videos are all done looking at, it's like living in a tree house and everything. But inside, isn't that how you are here today? I'm gonna get real. Most of you came here and you look real cute. But there's some mold you found, maybe in one of the workshops. Maybe inside here, you're just doing this to get to the next thing. It's one foot in front of the other, and everything you try to do, 5 more things happen that you have to fix. I feel like I'm a renovation specialist now, and I should have my own show on HGTV. So put a good word in for me. But as you are going through this process, that's what's gonna happen. One thing after another is gonna open up, and it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to let your sister, Hulda last night was brilliant. I love, you were each other's walls of protection. I will be honest with you, it kicked my butt when I got back into my room. Thanks. Because the Lord showed me that's why Lashon Hara is such a big deal. You had to go outside the camp because you just violated the wall safety protection around your sister that you were supposed to have. And when you talking Lashon Hara, you violated that, so you don't get to be in the safety of a wall. And I was like, oh man, I'm so sorry. Mom, Miriam, I made fun of you last night. She knows, 6 in the morning, I'm sorry. We do this, we look beautiful. I'm fine. And some of us aren't even crying because we're so moving on to the next thing. And you know what, before I even finish this wall or fix this, I'm gonna move on to another thing. And right now I think he's just saying, I want you to sit in who you are. Right now, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You're exactly who you're supposed to be. And you're not that powerful to mess it up. Yeah, but Charlie, you don't know my choices. You're not that powerful. He's in control. And if you just really, really knew that, you would give yourself a break. Because you would be like, I know, I tried. Think about your children. Your kids trying so hard to please you, doing crazy stuff, and they keep coming back. You're the one who's in control. They can't mess it up that bad that you can't fix it. Well, at least only a little. You know, you might get a new outfit, you might get some new makeup, you might get new initials behind your name to change your identity. We change our identity for men. How many of you have conformed your identity for a man? Thank you for being honest. I've conformed my identity for friends, for a fellowship. I've tried to conform and I thought, this doesn't feel right, I should say something, but you know what? I'm gonna kind of conform into this because I don't wanna rock any boats and I don't want anyone not to like me. It's kind of like my house, but we just have to keep doing the work on the inside instead of conforming. I feel like that I'm here tonight to speak a word to you, to remind you of who you are. It doesn't matter what other people have called you. It doesn't matter what you've called yourself. Only the one who gave you life has the authority to give you your identity. Only the one who gave you life has the authority to give you identity. So if you're here right now in the middle of an identity crisis, you're in the right place. Because only he can restore and give you your identity. Apparently he didn't want you to have that identity anyway. So he started shaking things up. He's the only one who can tell you who you are. Others might have been powerful, they might have been qualified, but they can't define you. History may have marked you, but they can't label you. In 2 Corinthians 10:5, I think we've talked about this in a couple of the sessions already. We're to cast down every thought and every imagination. I know Dr. Deb talked about us talking 40,000 words to ourselves. But wait a minute, it says we are to be the ones who are to take the thoughts captive. We're to be the ones who cast down. It is cooperative. He doesn't do that for us. If you were at my house, you would laugh because I have Tourette's. I'm sure of it. I'm self-diagnosing. I'm a doctor. I can do that now. You will hear me in my office in something, I will be yelling at myself, stop! I am not kidding. My husband's not here because of a pajama party. He said, no, I'm not going to be here for that. He was starting to get cramps with all the estrogen, and he said, I can't come to a pajama party. But you would hear me, I'm screaming, stop! And sometimes I have to do it that loud. Because I'll have these crazy thoughts that start running in my head, and and she thought, stop! And I'm learning to catch them faster, but I have to take the thought captive, and for me that works, because I'm just extra like that. You have to find whatever works for you and find a way that you cast it. It's a violent thing, because for me sometimes it can get crazy all up in here, right? You need to be like, toenail polish, no. There's a rock in here, okay. Some of the stuff happening in your mind, because you're letting it jump in and take over everything. You're telling yourself how wounded you are. You're telling yourself how isolated you are. You're telling yourself how old you are. You're telling yourself, it didn't work last time I tried it. They hurt my feelings the last time I did that. I'm never doing that again. I'm not successful. I'm just a woman. I love that Hillary was talking. I'm a woman. I can't do that. I couldn't teach like that. What would happen if you came home to your house, you're tired, you get home, you've been here, you open the door and there's a woman in your house who's cooking, making dinner. You don't know who she is, right? There's more. Somebody's kids have been all through the house and not picked up. There's some man watching some kind of sports thing with his feet on your good table. And there's someone in the bathroom doing a number 3. You're going to either call the authorities or you will be the authority. There's most of us, heads would start bobbing and it's snatching some people bald-headed to get them out of your house, right? Yes, I don't think so, not in here. And by the way, clean that bathroom before you go. I'm not touching that. But you let it happen in your mind to steal your identity, coming into your house, telling you who you are, letting other people tell you who you are in your house, that the King of all kings has built for you, that he's set up residence, that his spirit abides with you, and you put him in the extra bedroom and you've allowed these crazy people to come in and do number 3 all inside, and you're not doing anything about it. We're not taking authority and casting down those imaginations and shoulding all over ourselves. Well, I should have done that. Well, it should have been like that. I should have done that better. So we talk about poop, okay? If you look for evidence of who you are, if you look for evidence that you're not enough, I promise you're going to find it. Our worth and our value is not negotiated with others. You know what? I may fit in with others, but I'm not going to fit with myself. I shared earlier, and I promised you I would do it again today in this session, is I love that I heard someone use the word confidence in this way. Confidence, where are my Spanish speakers? What does con mean in Latin with? What about, I would say fidence, but fidelity, with fidelity. If I'm walking in the confidence of who I am and who I'm called to be, this changed me. I don't scream stop as much. I'm walking in the confidence, I'm with fidelity to myself and with who he says I am. I don't cheat on me. I'm not going to conform to what the world wants me to do. And sometimes it's hard because I work around some people with some serious religious spirits. It's none of you. But I'm going to walk with fidelity to who he's called me to be. And I'm going to stop cheating on myself. I'm going to stop cheating on my identity. And it's time that you rise up and be confident. We talked about Deborah in my session. She stood up in confidence. She didn't have to go find Barak. She called for him. He came to her. Please. That's who you are. When you sit in your confidence with fidelity, you are being faithful to you, who you are, whose you are, who you've been called to be. Again, if you look for evidence that you don't belong, you're going to find it. If you say you're not enough, you'll find it. Your worth and your value are not negotiated with other people. And you guys, I am not willing to negotiate anymore who I am with other people just to fit in. I am tired of playing 8th grade. I'm just tired. Sorry, I'm getting a little cantankerous. Is that what happens when you get older? I just need that purple hat now. That's what I feel like. Can I just say this? I don't care what others, your family, your church, your ex-husband, what they've done to you. I don't care. Because it's not more than what he's done for you. They don't have the totality to shape you into who you are and who you've been called to be. Period. Your past does not define you. Your behavior, your failures, your choices, your feelings, your politics, your culture, they can't should all over you. You should do this. You should stop doing that. You shouldn't have posted that. Oh no, what's gonna happen? Oh my gosh, just stop. And you're not a mistake. My mistake story, I'll tell it quickly, is I was born out of I am the product of an affair, and I'm an illegitimate child. And growing up knowing that you were not wanted, knowing that you were an accident, knowing that that wasn't supposed to happen, and that your father, who was significant enough in his community, gave your mother money. She divorced her husband, and my mom moved to California from South Carolina, moved us there, and we were in the ghetto. Like, it was poor because you caused all that. Now, did I? Of course I didn't. But as a little girl, you carried that. And for years, I kept thinking that this is what happened. Well, my mom met a man, and he married him. I tell a story about him in my book, about he was a great man. She married a man, and he adopted me. And I had to struggle with the fact that my biological father just quickly wrote me away and let somebody else take me. So of course you can imagine throughout my life, I'm wanting some man to constantly tell me I'm okay. Whether physically, whatever it took, that I wanted to make sure that I was okay. Because I wanted to make him, I needed to feel loved and make myself okay and feel that hole in my soul. Well, there was a time before my father passed away that he had biological children, and one of them threw a fit that I was allowed to have some privileges that she was not allowed to have as a child, and she would yell all the time, "But I'm your biological daughter." And it was constant, and it was constantly in my face. And he stood up to her, my sweet little Papa Dad. He stood up to her and he says, "You need to shut up. Let me tell you something, little girl." And I'm like, oh. He said, "You do realize back to Roman times when a baby was adopted, the law was passed, and it is still current to this day, that when you adopt a child, you are not allowed to disown that child or disinherit that child. You, my friend, are a whole nother story. You, my friend, have been adopted. You can't be disinherited. You don't have the power. You legally cannot be disowned by your father because he's adopted you and grafted you in. I don't care what someone has told you, you are not a mistake." So it takes something for me. I have to tell myself, and you'll hear me every once in a while do the stop screaming, because I have to remind myself that I bear his name. I am not an accident. I am fearfully and wonderfully made, because some days it's hard. Don't think it's not hard. I'm not saying that, but you still have to partner with him and take those thoughts captive. Because the enemy wants to steal your identity. That's gone back to the garden. Of course that's what he wanted. Let me take your identity. Listen for the hiss. He is not going to condemn you. If you hear the hiss, you know the voice. It's not his voice. Just scream at it, just shut up, and who cares if people think you're crazy? You're at least competent and crazy. All right, in Judges 6, the Midianites, they destroyed them. They destroyed it was just crazy going on in Judges 6. Israel was on the run because of an identity crisis. Gideon, unremarkable. He's hiding, threshing wheat. It says he's in the wine press. You know you don't thresh wine. Threshing wheat in a wine press. Where do you do it?
Threshing floor.
The threshing floor. Where is the threshing floor?
On the hill.
Wait, that's Dr. Dina Dye on a mountain. And if you know, you know. He's hiding. He's hiding because he doesn't want the Midianites to know they have wheat. So they're hiding this threshing process. And while he's in the middle of this, grab this, Malek Yahweh comes and sits with him under a tree. He meets him right where he was, in his unbelief. And all I kept hearing was, Malek Yahweh is right there with you right now in the middle of your unbelief. Even if you're doing things on the DL because you don't want other people to know because they're going to talk about you or steal it from you. He meets those in the middle of identity crisis. He met Hagar. He saw her. He met Abraham. He saw him. He met Moshe. He saw him. He's running the stinking universe and he steps because you matter. No, really, do you just know that? Because that's what I struggled with for 6 months, is they don't know it, because if they knew it, you'd all be on the ground like, I get it. I'm like, yeah, is there any less me? We don't know it. Something's blocking. We've accepted that hiss, but he's coming for you. That's the story of the entire Bible. He's coming for you, period. When Melech Yahweh comes, it's because someone has forgotten who they are. Hagar. I need my Hagars in the room to know. The people that were supposed to have, you've trusted them. They were supposed to care for you. They were supposed to have been your walls that surround you. They've betrayed you. And they sent you out into the wilderness. I'm not going to go into my story, I've done it before, but through my divorce, I was the overview is that in the middle of pastoring at a church, my husband had an affair, and my church told me I need to go to a different church so I could heal better. The people who were supposed to have surrounded me and protected me asked me to go somewhere else, because they actually said I should try the biker church so people wouldn't know me and I could heal better. So I married a biker. Okay, got a little rebellious. The Melech Yahweh is coming for you. Moshe, we're at a Hebraic conference, Moshe, he was in the wilderness because of consequences of his own actions. How many of you suffer some consequences of your own actions? My hands and feet are up right now. You may have done this before. I can't even believe I did that, because I've done it how many times? I've still done it, and I'm still suffering the consequences. Listen. Burn in deserts like that. Melech Yahweh shows up in deserts like that. When you have run away, when you have set yourself to a place, and you have someone grown up in a palace, and now he's tending sheep. That's not who I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be on that stage, or I'm supposed to be doing these things. Everyone else is doing that, and it's making me feel insignificant, because I know I have a calling on my life, but I've made choices, and there's consequences. Melech Yahweh burns bushes in wildernesses just like the one you're in right now. Because that's who he is, and that's how much he loves you. He comes to us. He wants you to know who you are. In Judges 6:11, I love that he says he sits down under the tree, but then it takes him to the next verse it says, and then he appeared. So I'm like, how long was he sitting there before he noticed him? Because he shows up, and then in 12 he says, oh, and then he appeared to Gideon. He made himself home in Gideon's situation. And we know that in John 1:14 he says, and he became flesh, right? And he tabernacled, he dwelled among us. That's what's even happening now. His Holy Spirit dwells in you. He moved into the neighborhood. He's all up in our business. That's who Melech Yahweh is. He knows what's going on. He knows what you're hiding from. He knows what you're covering up. He knows what you're avoiding. How long do you think that Gideon was working before he realized Melech Yahweh was sitting under the tree? Can you imagine? Wait, what? Kind of like when Jesus was walking, it's like, and then it's like, oh, whoa, it's Yeshua. By the way, pause. Thank you, Sarah, for saying that. Jesus, Yahuwah, Yahshua. Listen, he is not having an identity crisis. I'm just going to tell you. Cried out, I prayed, because there was someone that I believe that said, because I wasn't saying his name right, that I was just doing all these horrible things. And so I have a relationship with him, and so we talked, and I talked, and he said, listen, some people call me Jesus. And he reminded me, my granddaughters call me Yaya. That's not my name, but you know I come running. All they have to do is say Yaya, and I come running. When I met him, he was Jesus. And I'm just going to tell you, as much as I'll try, and I work in saying Yeshua, I'm honoring, and I will do that. But when I'm in trouble, I'm on my knees crying to Jesus. And he's not having an identity crisis. He's there, and he needs me right at that moment. So don't let anyone put that on you. In Ephesians, we're in Ephesians 1. There's that prayer saying, God, open the eyes to my heart. If he's sitting right here, if Melech Yahweh is showing up, then let him open your heart. We see Gideon wrestling with God. He's like, who is this? And he's saying, you know what? I can't do this because of my family. We're kind of poor, and I'm the smallest one. And God's like, yeah, I already know who you are. Go deliver him anyways. And he's like, yeah, but you know that I struggle. He's like, I don't believe you. Okay, show me a sign to prove this. Who can relate? Okay. the Midians outside, he's saying, I am Melech Yahweh. Even with the Midians outside, I'm still who I am. Even with all the choices you've made, he's still who he is. It doesn't change that. I love what he's like, I don't believe you. It's time for us to move into our existing purpose. It's time for us to handle our identities. It just took one man to change a nation. It took one woman with Deborah, with Esther. It took one person. It took Daniel. It took one person to stand up and say, this is who I'm called to be. I love that Hebrews says that I don't even have time to tell you what you need to know about Gideon. That's how cool he was by the end. Just stop listening to the hiss. This is so tiny, I can't even read what I wrote. All right, let's get beyond the mirror now. I asked Sarah, that girl. I asked her to post a picture on the Facebook group, would go in there because I had a picture of the mirrors that the women outside the tabernacle, they were asked to give their mirrors. And I stayed up late. I stayed up almost all night the other night just travailing, like, what are you trying to tell me about this? You know when something just gets in you, you know it's something, but you just are like, just tell me already. And he's like, I want you to dig. I don't have time. These women are outside, and when they're pulling everything together for the tabernacle, there's a list of everything that was collected, and what's not listed in there is the mirrors from the women that were working outside the tent. There's not an account for that when they're talking about people bringing things. But what happens is it's time to make the laver. It's time to make the place where the mikvah happens before the priest are consecrated. They come in at first, so priests will come in and they're fully like mikvah. They're clean, they're washed head to toe, and then they get their garments. After that, it's just used to wash their hands, their feet, just to get washed to be. And I love it says, or they will die. It says that, like, and they will die. Like 3 times in the same verse. I'm like, okay, well, they're gonna die already. Trust me, I've read this like 100 times this week. They will die. So here's this thing that needs to get made. And I can just see these women, it says they were working outside the tent. I even texted Dina, can you give me a shortcut? What does this mean? No, I'm busy. They have these mirrors that are bronze or copper, it's all the same. They're shiny, and there's these women working outside, and there's a lot of conjecture. There's a lot of extra biblical reading you can do on what these women were doing outside the tents. But one of the things I really like, it was like they were guarding it. They were outside actually working. They were helping to serve those who were building, because remember, this is just getting built. They're standing outside, whereas in other pagan cultures, they were working. I didn't read anything like that, I'll just say. But I will tell you is that they were working, but I love that the verbiage in Hebrew was that they were guarding like warriors outside the front. And then when it was time and they were needing to do this, I can imagine them all saying, will these work? And these women all had these mirrors that they had brought from Egypt. It's been passed down in oral tradition that those mirrors were used to help them to proliferate while they were in Egypt, and it was one of the reasons why they had more babies. Not that they were magical, but it was just so they would make themselves pretty and their husbands would want them because they were told not to connect with their husbands. And so it was part of the process. And so I don't care about all that. But these women, just like you, they had something simple like a mirror. Something that they could look into and they could say, okay, this needs to be fixed, because they would have been putting their big old eyeliner on. I'm just not good at it. Liquid, please. I need glasses. How do you do that? They would be beautifying themselves. They'd be able to look to see if they had something in their teeth, right? Like you use these mirrors, and here they're saying, here would you use them? There's tradition says that Moses said, no, we're not using those. And then God said, yes, you are, or they will die. They bring them in, they pound them, they make this beautiful. We could probably go into something really deep about how this is, but he won't let me. That's not what he wanted you to know. What he wants you to know is that it was something so simple that was used for everyday things. It was used for vanity. It was used to look in the mirror to figure out who you were on the outside. And even though I've told you that you have to stop looking at everything on the outside and you have to start working on the inside, he can even take the work you've done on the outside, even if you've paid a lot of money for it, he can use everything that you've done on the outside, and even that can be used for something of purpose in the kingdom. Those things that you think were not beneficial, they were simple, can now be put together, especially as sisters. If together, we come together and bring our mirrors together. We come together and bring those things of our identity, the things that's reflecting who we think we are, and we come together in that full identity of who we are in Him, and we bring that. It's the thing that was between the altar and between walking into the presence of God. We get to be that place that ushers that through. That we get to say, hey, wait a minute, when you look in there, there's a little spot right here. You need to watch that too, or you will die. We get to be that voice, that opposing force, that is there connecto. And it was so beautiful to see all of that. We just have to lay down something that may be so valuable to you, because this would have been valuable. Maybe your identity on the outside is so valuable to you that He's asking you today to lay that down, because He wants to use you in a different way. He wants you to see who you are through His image in the waters, the cleansing waters. He wants you to see yourself that way instead of the way the world, the way Egypt said you had to look. And I'm going to close with this. Once they gave up those mirrors, how do you think they figured out what they looked like? Like, they had to ask each other. They had to go to you, Misty, do I got something in my teeth? Because I don't have a mirror anymore. They went to each other to support each other in how they looked, how they were processing through life, to hold each other up. They didn't have to have the mirror anymore. When they laid that down, He was the one who was giving them their identity, and they were supporting each other in their identity. You know, with an eagle, people talk about eagles all the time. They fly so high. They can only fly so high. An eagle can only fly so high. But then what it'll do is it will go look for a really turbulent wind, and that turbulent wind will then pick it up and lift it to the high heights. It's not because it can flap its wings and gets there. It waits for the wind to pull them up. We get to be the wind for each other. Finding somebody who needs you to be the wall, like Hula was saying, being the wall, being a sisterhood, being the one who says, hey, you got something in your teeth. Hey, you know what? You're struggling right now, but I got you. I'm surrounding you. Your hair looks crazy today, so I'm going to go help you fix that. In love. He wants you to be the wind beneath each other's wings. He wants you to know that Melech Yahweh is right here, right now, in your wilderness, reminding you who you are, reminding you whose you are. Now, we have 2 seconds. Can you guys pass those out? I need you to be each other's mirrors. So the girls are going to pass out something really quick, and what you're going to do, pair up with someone, and I want you to alternate. I want you to read the verse to your sister, and then your sister reads the next one to you. There's not a ton of them. You're going to be the mirror, and then I want you to practice this at home standing in the mirror, and I want you to make them I statements. So pair up, look each other in the eyes, and then you read one to her and she reads one to you. If you don't have somebody to look, raise your hand. Okay, they're bringing them back. And then would you guys pray together as a table and dismiss yourself? That way, well, Sarah's going to come let you go. Yeah, she has stuff. Yeah, does everyone have papers? All right, if you don't have one, raise your hand. This table doesn't have one. All right, pair up with each other. You have to look in each other's eyes. I want you to face each other. You can't be a mirror shoulder to shoulder. Come on, turn your chairs. It's uncomfortable. You tell her who she is, and then she tells you who you are.